hey man, this guy should not be an agent. He ends up going to New York City and walks into a Walgreens, puts a Pepto-Bismol under his sweatshirt and walks out. They try to arrest him. They stop him, and he badges them. And so they arrested him for impersonating an FBI agent, because what FBI agent would do that?
But the polygrapher, he had a guy that admitted to putting peanut butter on his private parts and letting the dog lick it off. And I mean, we've all heard that joke and all that, but this guy admitted to it. And then the polygrapher kept this, just straight. Okay, well, that's understandable. Is there anything else? And he hangs his head. And he goes, sometimes I return the favor. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, the polygraphers, they get a lot of cases for child pornography. Just, because they say, hey, have you ever committed a crime that you gotten away with? Or,
Yep.
Hey, have you ever looked at child porn? And they'll be like, well, yeah. And they think as long as I tell the truth, I'm going to get through the polygraph. Okay, well, all right, you're truthful. They say, all right, well, can I see that laptop? Can we come to your house and get that? And they'll go pick up the laptop with evidence of child pornography, and they've just made a case, and this guy's confessed during the polygraph.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one where you go, like, I don't think I need this job.
Yeah.
The police are into this shooting, and then the FBI comes in, just like in Die Hard, and tells them that we're going to take over the operation.
Yeah.
And the first thing the FBI does is cut off the power, as Hans Gruber told us they do. The first thing they do for a building issue. Is any of this factual? Today, we're going to discuss one of the most misunderstood and misinterpreted organizations in the world, mainly because films and television have given us such a clear image of what we think it is. Men in suits walking into crime scenes, agents taking over investigations, interrogation rooms, federal authority, secrets, power, the three letters that everyone recognizes, the FBI. But what does the FBI actually do? When does a case become federal? To help answer that, I'm joined by two former agents. Brian Grehoski spent 20 years with the FBI working criminal investigations, civil rights, public corruptions, interviews, and federal cases. We also have Eric Robinson, who's a former special agent who worked criminal investigations, counterterrorism, and also served as an FBI SWAT operator, firearms instructor, tactics instructor, and fitness instructor. This is not a war episode. This is a conversation about the FBI itself. Please welcome Brian and Eric. Guys.
Thanks for having us.
Oh,
thanks, Dave.
Man, it's an absolute pleasure. We have so much to cover. Let's kick off at the beginning. So from someone outside of America, more than anything else, what is the FBI and what is it not?
Eric, go.
Yeah, I'm going to start. So we're the federal agency that's located throughout the United States, 56 field offices, 350 satellite offices. We've got legal attaches overseas to assist as well, and we cover the federal cases. So there's many things when you talk about misunderstandings. I'm sure Brian can say this too. You have people talking about, you're going to catch serial killers. We do the things that are violations that sometimes cross over into state and local venues. And so often we're working hand in hand with folks where, as you talk about that misunderstanding of the FBI rushing in and taking over a case, more likely is we're working hand in hand. And if we can't get charges, we go with state. More often they're coming to us saying, hey, you guys have more opportunities, more tools, more time, and you're going to get a heavier hit with a federal. Here's our information. I'll work with you, and we take things on from there.
Yeah. Our jurisdiction comes from the Commerce Clause in the U.S. Constitution. For those outside the U.S., our Constitution has a clause that basically says the federal government has jurisdiction for anything that affects interstate commerce. And so, for the FBI to have jurisdiction, we always have to find a way to tie into something that affected interstate commerce. And that's usually incredibly easy to do. If there was a gun involved, it probably was made in another state. That's interstate commerce. If someone used a telephone, that telephone call probably got routed to a switch in another state. So establishing an interstate nexus is pretty easy to do, but that's generally where we have to prove our jurisdiction. And like Eric was saying, we have really deep pockets to help out with the locals. So if it isn't a federal case, we can certainly lend resources and investigative assistance to our state and local partners and tribal partners as well.
Yeah, deep pockets and usually more important, more time. So the Bureau's mandate is to run enterprise investigations to get down to the root and then find the breadth, whereas police have to police. Like they have to take care of the street corner, do what's right in front of them, and often don't have the time and resources to spend 4 months, 5 years looking into an organization.
Let's just peel that back again for those outside of America. So America's broken into states. The whole country's broken into states. Those states have their own local law enforcement, which is restricted to protecting that state. They're almost like mini countries. And then the history of the FBI as to why it was created was to govern the whole of them from a policing aspect. Would that be fair?
It would be fair to...
Go ahead.
I think it'd be fair to say that it's more of a catch-all where we can get into things that other. So, for example, we've got somebody in Ohio who was defrauded by someone in Montana, and just simply with that happening, it becomes very difficult for the sheriff's office in Ohio to now make those contacts, make cases. Bureau, we've got it. We've got our people here. We've got our people there. And we can manage a broader range of offenses.
So if I was to say I was in New York and I committed a crime in New York, I stole a diamond, and then I was in, I don't know, LA, let's say, so totally different place. The police in LA would arrest me for the crime in New York, and that would still be applicable, or does it fall to a federal jurisdiction to arrest me for that?
Yeah, it could be both. It could be whatever. Normally, what happens is wherever you get the biggest bang for your buck in terms of a prosecution or jail time or seizures or whatever. So, for us, that would be interstate transportation of stolen property. I used to work those cases. So if someone stole something in New York, brought it to LA to sell it, the LA police could get wind that someone's trying to pawn a stolen diamond. And then they could either send an investigator from LA all the way up to New York, ask permission in the New York jurisdiction for their LA officer to operate. They would probably partner up with a local police officer in New York. Whereas the FBI can say, I'll just cut a lead to our New York field office, or New York can cut a lead to LA and say, hey, we're looking for this. I'll tell you, I actually had a case that involved stolen platinum. There was a company in Arizona that had, at any given time, $300 to $400 million in precious metals because they were making parts for computers, and they found out they were missing $36 million. So I was able to cut a lead, $36 million in platinum, stolen platinum. So I was able to cut a lead to our different field offices that had companies that could process platinum in such a way that it was in a powdered form. So the FBI can just cut a lead for another office to go do the investigation. They do the investigation, send the paperwork back, and you're done. And that's what's sort of nice is agents are somewhat interchangeable. So, I could cut a lead to the agent in New York and say, I need this information. They'd know exactly what to do. They'd go out, do a thorough investigation, and give all that information right back to you. So it's a lot easier for the FBI to do that kind of stuff. And that carries, like Eric was saying, we have legal attaches around the world. So if there's a crime that affects international commerce, the FBI can cut leads to its legal attaches to conduct some piece of investigation in a foreign country to help out with the case in the United States, and vice versa. I've helped out on foreign countries' investigations here in America.
And more to the enterprise investigations as well. I worked in Chicago. We work with Chicago PD all the time. So they're mainly trying to just clean the streets, do dope buys, get busts. But what then they do, because they don't have the time to spend finding out what this organization is about, hey, they bring us a guy like, hey, this guy wants to play ball. Now we're having him make a buy. We're on his phone, and now we're spending our time seeing who else in Chicago is getting the drugs. We're finding out the entire organization. We're getting on that phone, and now we're setting leads down to El Paso because the guy from El Paso is bringing it up to somebody in Chicago. And so we can do more than just that dope buy, where instead of just plugging leaks, we can see what's going on with the ship. How can we get deeper into an organization instead of just, doing one-offs?
I think that's a really valid point, and that's that's something we see in the movies. So the police will go after the starting criminal. However, the FBI would come in and they would say, "Well, we don't want that person. We don't want the middleman who they buy off. We're gonna chase this all the way up to the top dog, so we can stop it at the root." So that's a factual thing that the FBI would do rather than go for the single crime.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, those guys are done too, but we're letting them sit while we're moving up on phones. We're making buys, letting those buys go, and using that now to dirty up a new phone or find other organizations, greater suppliers along the way.
What do you think the public most misunderstands about the FBI's power?
That we can do anything. So, this.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've been cut off in traffic and I want to pull someone over and yell at them. We do not have authority at the state or local level. You mentioned earlier, Dave, that federally we've got this, and then the states have their own police. But a state normally has the state police. Within that, there's counties. There are usually county sheriffs. Within the counties, you've got cities and towns. Pretty much every city and town has their own police department as well. There are over 18,000 police departments in the United States that service county, state, tribal, federal, and so on. So everyone thinks you're the FBI, you can do anything. No, we can't. And we can get in a lot of trouble for pulling someone over on a traffic stop because we have no jurisdiction to do it. It's not a federal crime to speed. And where people get in trouble is, I'm going to pull them over. And then what happens if it gets in a shootout, right? Like you've stumbled upon someone who doesn't want to be pulled over and they pull out a gun. Now you're in a gunfight over a traffic stop. The FBI would be like, you are beyond your scope. That is not your job. So what were you doing? And you can get in a lot of trouble for acting in instances where there's no federal nexus. One of the ways they sort of get around it is there's a lot of jurisdictions which will cross-deputize FBI agents. So for a while, I was a Maricopa County Sheriff's deputy. I was deputized as a deputy. And, I think that's largely symbolic because if I did something that wasn't a federal crime, you could say, well, I'm a sheriff's deputy too, but the sheriff's office isn't going to back me up. I'm not one of their employees. I'm operating, with a badge, but you just take risks when you start doing things beyond the scope of your job. And that's what's funny. Everyone thinks the FBI can do anything we want, and we can't. There has to be a federal nexus to it for us to have jurisdiction to take any action. Otherwise, we can get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and adding on to that, we don't have an emo goth chick who has a supercomputer where I just get on the phone. And so, like, that's interesting, of course. But so any TV show you watch where they say, hey, who has this guy been calling lately? Oh, okay. Well, that's a 3-week process where you're getting subpoenas and then you're on the phone with T-Mobile yelling at them saying, hey, where are my subpoena? Like, that's boring. Nobody wants to watch that. But there's a long drawn out process of all the actual legal steps of judicial process we have to go through. Guys say, hey, let's go hit this house. Okay, well, that's probably a week of writing a search warrant, going back and forth with the federal prosecutor until everything is tight.
Yep.
But what about probable cause? I mean, I always see it on the TV shows that there's probable cause of something and they can go immediately.
That's in your 40-page affidavit.
Yeah, the probable cause is articulated in the affidavit. So unless there's an exigent circumstance with probable cause, in which case you have to make entry immediately if someone's life is in danger or there's a risk that evidence will be destroyed. But after the fact, you have to be able to articulate what that was. So, this is a great thing that I learned, we all learned at the academy. What is probable cause? Most people don't really understand what that means. and it was grilled into us by our legal instructor. It's a reasonable person acting prudently would believe it's true with probability, not certainty. So whatever it is that you think is going on, a reasonable person in the United States, a reasonable person is actually a Supreme Court justice. It's not Joe on the street. What would Joe on the street think? It's what would when you look at the facts, what would a Supreme Court justice think? That's considered a reasonable person. Acting prudently means that they have to be obviously acting in good faith. So all of these TV shows where you have these two cops standing outside a door and like, did you hear that scream? I heard that scream. And then they kick in the door and it was the television and they knew it was the television. That's crap. They're not acting prudently. They're not acting in good faith. They would believe it's true, whatever it is they're investigating. Like, you see a guy walking down the street and there's a description of a subject who's wearing a gray sweatshirt and black pants, and you see a guy with a green sweatshirt and brown pants, it's like, that's not reasonably the guy, So it's probably not him. And then that's the thing. It doesn't have to be beyond a reasonable doubt, your belief. It just has to be more likely than not. So more likely than not, this guy walking down the street matches the description or doesn't match the description. So those are the 4 prongs of probable cause that most people don't ever hear. They just hear the term probable cause and they make their own inference of what that means. And it's pretty straightforward when you hear it.
Yeah. And if Brian's written more than 2 search warrants in his life, he knows an FBI search warrant is not probable cause. It is like, it's going to stand up in court. So it's not just like, yep, here's the simple things that someone would say, yeah, I think that's true. It is undamnable in court. It's going to stand up because now everything we get from that can't be defeated. We can't write something slim and then all that all the cocaine, all the materials we got from the computer, well, that's kicked out because now they're going to attack that in trial.
When someone says FBI special agent, so you were both special agents. So what makes you special? How did you get that title?
I earned it 4 months in Quantico. So eating the food that we ate, that made me special. It's just a term that had been come up with.
It's got a long historical history to it, obviously historical. And so there are agents of government, people that go out and act on behalf of the government. I think a special agent, just the name implies that you have law enforcement authority and the ability to carry a gun and take action, including violent action if necessary in furtherance of the law. Yeah, but the term comes from 100 years ago.
So there's no such thing as a standard agent. There's only a special agent.
Not in the FBI. I mean, there's some substandard agents, and we've all met them. But no, anybody who's got a badge and gun is a special agent. And then there's folks who move into different positions, but they're still, even if they have a different title, they're still a special agent.
Yeah. So a supervisory special agent. I retired as a supervisory special agent. Still a special agent, but I'm a supervisor. Above that level is assistant special agents in charge, or ASACs. The ASAC normally has a branch. So one ASAC might have all of the criminal programs. Within the criminal program, you've got your child trafficking, your public corruption, your civil rights, your healthcare fraud, mortgage fraud, all the criminal things. There might be another ASAC over the counterterrorism branch, and he's got all of the terrorism stuff. And then there's a cyber branch. So depending on the size of the field office, some field offices only have 2 ASACs. Some of them have 7 or 8 ASACs. And then the person in charge of the whole field office is the special agent in charge, or the SAC. So he's a special agent in charge. So we're all agents, special agents, but they have those characteristics of their title. And if you're in New York or Los Angeles, they actually have an ADIC, an assistant director in charge. An ADIC would have multiple SACs, who has multiple SSAs, who has thousands of agents, and it's a pyramid, and the titles represent that.
And the way that people usually discern between supervisory special. There's folks in DC, and then I would refer to myself as a field agent because I'm in this city doing the groundwork, whereas others are in management overseeing.
You mentioned Quantico, so let's go through the beginning. Let's go through the process. So, I'm assuming it's at college or something like that you decide you want to go a particular route, or are you tapped, or do you go into law enforcement and then get tapped and say, hey, you should be going into the FBI? How do you get into the FBI? Is it a decision or is it a choosing?
Yeah, Eric, I'll take this one. I used to have applicants training and recruiting on the admin squad. So the requirement for an agent is you have to have a 4-year degree, and it's whatever field of study you're interested in. So, like when I was at the academy, we had Air Force people, we had a medical doctor, we had a chemist, we had school teachers, you have lawyers, accountants. I was an engineer. We had software people, police officers, lawyers. I mean, you name it. The idea is they want you to be good at what you do, whatever that is. The FBI needs all kinds of people, all kinds of background. And then for the longest time, it was the 4-year degree and then 3 years of experience in whatever that expertise was. So the FBI doesn't want people right out of college that they have to teach about the world. They'd rather you come to the FBI with worldly knowledge that you can bring to the investigations. And I don't know what the average age is now, but when I was coming through, the average age of a new agent was around 30 years old. I joined at 35. The cutoff is 37. So I got in sort of under the wire. And so that's what they want. You don't have to have a squeaky clean criminal history, but you can't be a felon or a drug dealer and become an FBI agent. And what I would always tell people is, look, everybody makes mistakes in their life. With the FBI, when you're going through this process, own it. If you made a mistake, it's not a proud moment. I was 19 years old and I got caught buying a case of beer. So I got 10 hours of community service. It was on my criminal record, if you will. And but I came in. I said, yeah, I made this lapse of judgment as a kid, 19, and that was fine, But it's not like I'm a career drug dealer or a gang member or anything like that. So I tell people, be honest with the process, and you should be fine as long as they're just minor things, blips on the radar. What they look for in your personality trait is, do you have character flaws that make you not a good candidate? Like, do you have a long history of partying and drinking? Are you notoriously late on paying bills? Are you in a lot of debt? Do you just make bad decisions continuously or consistently? That's the kind of stuff they look for. So if you got that degree and you're relatively squeaky clean, then you apply to the FBI. They will bring you in for a phase 1 exam. It's basically a battery of aptitude tests, much like you'd get if you were going into the service. And if you do well on this first round of academic testing, it's math stuff, it's writing and other things. If you do well there, they'll bring you in for a phase 2, which is a panel interview with 3 FBI agents. It lasts about an hour. They ask you a series of canned questions, and they take this format of name a situation where you had a disagreement with a coworker. What happened? What did you do? And how did it turn out? Those are the things they ask. Or name a situation where you got in trouble at work. What did you do? And how did it work out? So they want you to, talk about these experiences you've had, and then how you exercise judgment and what was the outcome of that. So it's an opportunity to show them that you can make a decision. You're a self-starter. You're a rational person. And the other part of that phase 2 is there's a written exam where they give you a bunch of materials and they ask you to create a justification for opening a case. And they give you like 3 hours. I think it was 3 hours, Eric. I can't remember.
It was a long time
ago. You go through all this paperwork and you write this 2 or 3 page justification as if you were going to open a case. So let's say you do that. You pass phase 2. Then you've got your background investigation, where they go and they verify all your schooling, where you went to college. They talk to a few of your teachers, maybe some of your classmates. They look at everywhere you've lived. They talk to all your neighbors. Talk to your landlord. Was he ever late with his payments, or was she ever a big partier? Did you ever have problems? Um, Everywhere you worked, they talk to your supervisors, your coworkers. They look at your employment records. So it is a full-scale investigation of you, looking for patterns of being a problem in your personal life. So while that's going on, they'll bring you in for a physical. They bring you in for a fitness test, which is a run and push-ups and sit-ups. And they also do a polygraph exam. And that to me was the worst experience, because
Yes.
even if you've got nothing to hide, it is the most stressful thing in the world, being hooked up to a machine.
Amen.
And they're asking you yes, no questions. And so if you pass all of that, then
Wow.
they'll give you a conditional job offer and ask you, can you show up to Quantico? And there you are. So it's that
Jesus,
simple.
that's that's an intense process to go through, but obviously they've got to be thorough. Do you know if that's changed at all in terms of? I find it interesting that a degree. I understand why it would have been a part of it. Is that still a part of it in this day? Because a lot of people, obviously, with the schooling and how it's going, are moving away from the degrees. They're leaving school early. They're doing other things. So still a requirement for the FBI to have that degree before they can get into it.
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, they still have and I think that's part not of just showing that you're educated. It's you can do this. It's much of what Brian was talking about, of showing you can follow through, you're dedicated to things. So many of the applicants, I mean, they get knocked out along the way. So you can, like, the coordinator looks at, like, hey, here's a great field of people, good backgrounds, they seem good, and boom, this takes them out, that takes them out. And by the time they get to me, when I'm doing the fit test, they know the answer. This is something everybody says in the FBI. They know the answers. They know what they have to meet. They should have done this already. And then here comes the fitness test, and a third will pass.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, but you're not superhuman to pass it. So even, like, I'd be in my 50s and we'd have guys there, and I'd just be telling them, you want me to beat you? Like, I'm gonna wear pants and boots and I'm gonna run faster than you. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, you're 28 years old. You should be better, at least better prepared.
Yeah.
I had one occasion where one kid came through, and the first event was sit-ups, and he was a lean kid, and I think I took off 4 sit-ups because they weren't to form, and he had failed by 1. Went through, burned through the push-ups, did great, and then he maxed out the 1.5 mile run. Knowing he'd already failed, he still gave maximum effort, and I went to the coordinator and I said, hey, I might have missed one of those sit-ups. And she said, are you sure? And I said, yeah, let's give him a chance. Like, see how well he did perform. This is what we want to see.
Yeah.
And so she said, okay, we'll move him on. And then he took the polygraph, and I almost let a felon in the FBI because he, in the polygraph, he admitted to, like, all sorts of crimes he was never caught for. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So all of this along the way, they're not making the fit test. And then, they come into the polygraph and you're like, maybe I can get by. Maybe if I don't tell them about this, I'll try to get by. And they're not getting by.
Yeah. You're not getting by the polygraph. I forgot what I was going to say there. The polygraphers, they get a lot of cases for child pornography. Just, because they say, hey, have you ever committed a crime that you gotten away with? Or, hey, have you ever looked at child porn? And they'll be like, well, yeah. And they think, as long as I tell the truth, I'm going to get through the polygraph. Okay, well, all right, you're truthful. They say, all right, well, can I see that laptop? Can we come to your house and get that? And they'll go pick up the laptop with evidence of child pornography, and they've just made a case. And this guy's confessed during the polygraph,
Yeah, that's one where you go, like, I don't think I need this job.
Yeah. And it's some of the most bizarre stuff, Dave. I'll share one. I won't say where it was, but the polygrapher, he had a guy that admitted to putting peanut butter on his private parts and letting the dog lick it off. And I mean, we've all heard that joke and all that, but this guy admitted to it, and then the polygrapher kept this, just straight. Okay, well, that's understandable. Is there anything else? And he hangs his head. And he goes, "Sometimes I return the favor." It's like, oh my god,
Look,
it's just the
I've been
polygraphers
friends
say
with.
some of the weirdest stuff.
Yeah, I've been friends with a couple polygraphers, close buddies, and they're like, it's always bestiality.
Yeah.
He said, like, you have no idea how many guys are doing this.
Yeah.
My God. Oh, jeepers.
We don't let them in to be FBI agents. We try to filter them as best we can, but those are the types of applicants we get.
Talk to me about the fitness test. So I'm fascinated because you obviously were instructing the fitness test. So what is the fitness test? What would I have to pass if I was going for the fitness test?
Yeah, so I was the most hated person in the FBI because then I would do the fit test for the agents too, and they all hated that. But coming through, there's the standards. You have to score. Man, they've changed this so many times along the way. When I came through, it was a 2-mile run and the stupid shuttle run. But
Shuttle run was the worst.
It was dumb. But what they have used for a long time was you start out with sit-ups and you've got to hit, women have this, men have this. Doesn't matter if you're 35 or if you're 27, everybody's got to hit this standard. You have to score a certain number of points. Most recently, it was 12. So while you're out in the field and I'm testing you, you have to, it used to be get at least 1 point in every event, and things have moved. But generally speaking, you have to score at least one. You have to get minimum in at least every event, and then aggregate to get 12 points. So, for example, if you max out and if you do 70 push-ups, you're getting 10 points. So if you're a big guy but you can do those, then okay, you just got to pass the run and maybe make something up somewhere else. So start with sit-ups and then sprint, 300-meter sprint. You do push-ups, which is just continuous push-ups, can't rest, no time limit, but people are going to wear out. And then you do a 1.5-mile run. And all of that seems fine, and it is. But the issue is people will test themselves like, oh, I did 48 push-ups. Okay, you have no idea. It seems silly, but push-ups, if you do max push-ups, that's going to affect your 1.5-mile run. Obviously, if you do a sprint, that's affecting your run. All these things put together, and they fail to do one after the other and see, oh my gosh, I'm running a 11-minute mile by the time I finish because I'm worn out.
The sit-ups affect your hip flexors, and the sprint wears out your hip flexors. I mean, and so each of these, like Eric's saying, each of these exercises, when it first came out, I think the big difference between the current fit test and the old one gave you a big break between the events. The new one, you have what, a 5-minute limit between the two events, so it's rapid fire. You got to do those four events with no break. And that wears people out because your muscles don't get to recover like they did in the previous fit test.
So you do as many as you can. So with the sit-ups, I mean, how many sit-ups are we talking about here?
1 minute of sit-ups. When Brian and I came through, it was 2 minutes of sit-ups. And I couldn't. Most people can't do a full 2 minutes. It's like all of a sudden, your abdomen's giving way. We had pull-ups when we came through. There were 5 events. They've gotten back to taking away the sit-ups and now doing pull-ups. And I look at that and I think, do you not want any women in the bureau? Because it's just a fact. Most women haven't done pull-ups, and it's you have to do at least one. And that's difficult. Many men can't do more than one, but that's really difficult against women.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
it used to be 20 was the max for pull-ups. If you did 20 pull-ups, that was 10 points, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And
that's a lot of pull-ups.
Yeah.
Please.
Come on.
Eric's like, please.
Please.
Did that this morning, one arm.
Yeah.
I wish I could have taken the fit test when I came out of Marine Corps boot camp. I would have.
Oh yeah.
So we've got through the fit test, so I can see why you're driving people out through that. You've been given your conditional, and now you go to Quantico. So where is Quantico?
It's here in Virginia. It's just south of D.C. by about a half hour, 45 minutes. It's a
Okay.
Marine Corps
And
base.
it's a base.
Yeah, it's a Marine Corps base, and the FBI Academy is located within the base, as is the
Okay.
DEA. Their academy is there as well.
So talk to me about the first day. Fresh agent comes in. What's the expectation that's set? Like, everyone's got terror in their eyes, I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, for me, in some ways, not in the prison yard type manner, but you're sizing people up. Obviously, for me, when they accepted me in the FBI, I'm like, oh, I thought you guys were elite, and so now I'm wondering, oh, what mistake did you make in letting me on? And so I'm looking around, and just like Brian's saying, okay, you've got some support staff that are coming on as agents, so they got a leg up. They understand the FBI already. I'm trying to wrap my head around this 100-year organization. Police officers. So while I'm skipping rounds off the ground, they're shooting pretty well, and now I'm getting a lot better, and they're getting a little better. But like you're just day two, like day one introduction. Here's what you're going to do. Day two is that fit test. So now everything you did in the field, there. Whereas I'm a nice guy, and I'm going to give you one maybe. The instructors out there are. I maxed out push-ups first time I took the test and third time I took the test. For some reason in the middle, I couldn't do push-ups. So, I'm doing them, and she's going 13, 13, 13. I'm like, I can't go lower. My chest is on the ground. I'm locking out, and they'll mess with you. So, but right off the bat, you're seeing people go home.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so you can fail straight off the bat.
And they'll send you home to get back in shape or get in shape, and they'll let you come back. Yeah. Yeah.
Holy moly. I didn't realize it was so you're there, you've got certain targets to hit, and if you don't hit them, you're out. And
yeah, but it's on you. If you're not coming, if you're in the field and you go, oh great, I scored the minimum points, and then you sit around for 3 months before you get there, like that's on you.
That's totally on you. Yeah.
If I went in with minimum points, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to get at least better in a few things here. So yeah, that's part of what Brian says about being a self-starter. If you can't figure that out, and you could see the difference. There's some folks who are like, yeah, if I don't make this, I can go home and work at my dad's company again. And then there's people who are like, I burn bridges, man. I can't go back. Yeah. I'm getting prepared.
First day, you're standing in the corridor, you're sizing everybody up, and everyone's professional. It was like, this is the FBI, and we're all the cream of the crop, and we're all the best. By like day 6, when they finally cracked the boardroom is the bar up above the chow hall. Once that got cracked and people loosened up, it was more like college. Like people,
well, yeah, making friends. Now you're seeing who you match up with, which guys. For me, here's a guy and here's a gal. I'm like I questioned why they took me. I have no idea why you're here. Yeah. We had one guy who came in, like we're talking to our counselors constantly, like, hey man, this guy should not be an agent. He ends up going to New York City and walks into a Walgreens, puts a Pepto-Bismol under his sweatshirt and walks out. They try to arrest him. They stop him, and he badges them. And so they arrested him for impersonating an FBI agent, because what FBI agent would do that?
Yeah.
He ended up getting polygraphed and fired. I always tell that story, and I told that once to a new agent. And they go, oh, yeah, they tell us about that at Quantico. They call him the Pepto-Klepto. And I thought, oh, my God, how did I think of that? Yeah. That's perfect.
Yeah. And that's right. And there's guys at the academy like, how did that guy get in? And then sometimes you look in the mirror like, how did I get in? And, and then, we all have our good days and bad days. And,
So how long are you at Quantico for? What's the training time that you have?
It varies. When I came through, it was 17 weeks. But then this was right after 9/11. They bloated the curriculum with more terrorism stuff, so I think it swelled up to 21 weeks. It might have even been 23.
Yeah, and then they shaved it back again.
Yeah. So it's basically 4 months.
And along the way, you're in class, instructors are there teaching you legal, teaching you, white collar gangs, all these things. You're taking tests, and the tests aren't difficult, but you have to pass all of them. And so, again, guys are going home because they're failing a test and then they're failing a second one, and that's it. Now we're on the range. Now we're doing defensive tactics. Now we're doing some fitness, and these are getting blended in along the way to where they're easing you into firearms, and then firearms is a little heavier as it goes on, getting more comfortable. But along the way, like you see new agents coming in the cafeteria, and they've got actual navy blue shirts and you're wearing one that's light blue now because you've washed it 70 times, and there's dead, your eyes are dead, and they look full of hope, and you're like, new agent, new applicant, great.
Yeah.
Wow. So, I mean, that's such a short period of time. 4 months to learn everything that you can. You finish at Quantico, and then you're assigned to an office somewhere, I assume?
Yeah. So when we went through, you got to rank all 56 offices, where you wanted to be the most, where you wanted to be the least, and they tried to accommodate. I think more likely than not, they had a monkey throwing a dart at a map. And so now I think they do it by region. You can select what region of the country you want to be and whatever. But so yeah, you're assigned a field office, and you ship out from Quantico. You go back home, pack up all your stuff, and move. They give you a little window there to move. If you've got a family, they pack up your family and everybody, and you go find a house and you move and you start work. You're a probationary agent for, I think it's 2 years still. 2 years, yeah. And they have a whole checkbook of things that you need to do as a new agent. So you have to draft an affidavit. You have to sit on a wiretap. You have to conduct an arrest briefing. You've got to conduct a search warrant briefing. I mean, there's all these things that FBI agents do, and you've got to accomplish all of them in that first 2 years. You're assigned a training agent who is supposed to sort of shepherd you through all that, give you guidance as a mentor and all that. And that's a complete crapshoot because, like when we came in, someone who doesn't want to be a training agent couldn't be bothered. It's like, yeah, just check off whatever you need to check off. Get with me later. If you have any questions, let me know. And you never see them again. Others take an active interest in your development, and they're really good. And so I think that's one of the funny things about the Bureau. Everyone's like, oh, it's got to be this pristine thing. And the reality is it's like any other company out there. You've got your top performers. You've got pretty much everybody in the middle of the bell curve, and you've got your dead weight, and it is what it is. It functions, and it gets the job done.
Yeah, when Brian and I came through, it was an actual blue book. So they called it the blue book, and it was an actual blue book. Now, of course, it's digitized. When I had finished, I was working on a dope squad in Chicago, so we were out just all the time getting that experience. That was great. When I came off probation, my supervisor said, hey, do you want Frank to sign off on this and maybe say something to you? And I said, the only thing Frank's going to say to me is, you were my probationary agent. And so we took him the book, and that's exactly what he said. I learned as I could from everybody else and just being thrown into it because we're just moving and busy, and I picked it up on my own.
Wow. That's fascinating. I mean, that's just defines the different levels of agents that you've got, not through their own fault, but through the tuition that they're given from other agents who, like you said, have or haven't got time to be able to do that. So,
yep. And that's why it's so important when they're vetting a candidate that the candidate can demonstrate that they're a self-starter. They don't want anyone that needs to be spoon-fed the process. They want someone who's going to go, I need to know this, I need to know this, I need to know this. I'm going to go do that, I'm going to do that. How can I volunteer? How can I help? How can I get on that search warrant? How can I do this? Someone that's going to motivate themselves, because no one has time to spoon-feed you the job. You've got to be motivated.
And this is where I'm going to insult Brian. I've had many buddies who were supervisory special agents, and I always tell them, like, you have the easiest job in the world because the FBI hires self-starters. Like, all you got to do is click buttons all day. So,
You know, it's easy until you've got a problem employee.
I know. I mean, I always joke with my buddies, tongue in cheek, because I know, oh my gosh, I mean, the hassles that supervisors get. But part of that is true. Like, it should be, and it often is. So Brian's got 10, 12 guys on his squad, and 9 of them are great. 6 are all stars, 3 of them are really solid. And then there's 3 others that, they're always coming around.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, with any business, it's got its politicking. And in the field office that I was in, I was a supervisor. There was a backdoor connection to the SAC. If you didn't like what your supervisor said, well, you could just go talk to your buddy who's the boss's boss, and he'll quash whatever the supervisor says, So it's like you try to hold people accountable, and they just circumvent you. So it's, to some extent, there's the politicking and the good old boy network, just like it is in any business. So it could be an incredibly frustrating experience. It's not supposed to be that way, but in reality, sometimes it is. And you just have to get over it and do your job, and make it work. So
2 years is gone by. The person's completed their probation. Their blue book has been ticked, whether it's digital or real. And now they formally become an agent of the FBI or a special agent?
They're an agent the day they graduate and get their credentials. So after 4 months, you're given your credentials. And it's a weird experience. I think most of us, we went from the academy and got on an airplane for the first time with a gun. And it's like, I'm on an airplane with a gun. This is weird, and you're not supposed to be there, but there you are. You're the authority, and you're just praying nothing goes sideways, because everyone's going to look to you as, well, you're the FBI. What do we do? I'm like, I don't freaking know, So it's really funny.
My first 30 days, they wanted volunteers to work background investigations in Tyson's Corner office out of Washington field office. So, I can do that. So I'm doing that for the first 30 days, and I'm walking into executive buildings, for the White House, and I'm showing my credentials, and he's like, hey, lock up your gun over there. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm with the FBI. I can't lock up your gun. Like, but I can take this on airplanes, sir. Did you not see FBI? But so walk into a bank with a gun, go wherever you want with a gun, and yet then there's still, certain courts. Nope, no courts, no gun.
Yeah, I would say it takes a good. I was told this when I joined, and I think it's accurate. It takes you about 3 to 5 years to really understand your authority and to really know what you can do and what you can't do. It's really a confusing thing to have that much authority as an FBI agent, to walk around the world with a gun anywhere you go and have that authority. For you to really appreciate it and understand it and use it properly, it takes a little while for that to sink in. So, some people are going to say, oh, shit, I didn't need 3 years. I got it right off the bat. And I think they'd be lying, because you have these experiences that challenge your own belief of what your authority is. And then you question it. You start to question, like one time I had to do an interview on a civil rights case, and I called up and I was asking to speak to this man, and the guy's wife answered, and she says, well, how do I know you're FBI? I'm like, yeah, you're just going to have to trust me. I didn't have an answer for it. And, right off the bat later, I was like, oh, how about hang up the phone, call the building, ask for me, and then I'll be on the phone, And so those little lessons that you learn that come from experience take time before you really feel confident with the role.
How do you get a gun on a plane and in a bank? So because in America, unlike a lot of other places in the world, you've got the metal detectors when you go into banks and when you go into airplanes. We have that everywhere. And do you take it out and put it in a special basket? And then do you have to show a badge, or do you have to, showing a badge, anyone could get hold of a badge, right? So is it a fingerprint, or what's the identification?
So every agent has their badge and they have their credentials. So ahead of time. And again, like Brian's saying, the first time you do this, you're so scared. Like, what am I going to do this right? You do it the fifth time, and you're like, yep, here we go. Walk up to the desk, show them your credentials. You know, they give you the papers you need to fill out, and then you go to a security office and sign things. And there is, I don't want to give away too much, but I'll just say there's a secret code that we all know, and this code
23.
changes. It's 23. This month it's 23, and so you have to know that as well. So there's in-person two-factor encryption.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
then, and then you just
you-
walk on, but you're keeping it covered so that you're not startling people.
Yeah. And the just to finish the earlier question, David. So once you're off probation, then you're sort of feeling your oats. You're doing your investigations, but you can start volunteering for collateral assignments like being a SWAT operator. I became a pilot, so I was doing counter terrorism and criminal cases, flying airplanes around, just watching people from the air. That was a lot of fun. You can be on the evidence recovery team. I mean, there's all kinds of collateral jobs that those are the things people see in the movies, aside from the investigations. It's FBI SWAT, and you could be a negotiator. You can be there's all kinds of collaterals. So once you're off probation, the door opens up for you, and you can start to try some of these other fun things.
Let's talk about the impact on a family, because all of the things that you've said sound amazing, delightful, running around with guns, shooting bad guys, not the paperwork, flying aeroplanes, all of that kind of stuff that we see in the movies. But I'm guessing it's shift work. I'm guessing it's unpredictable. You mentioned before we started about the phone that you've always got on you, and whenever that's going off. What's it like as a father, as a husband, as a whatever you on a family?
So for me, I had wife, 3 kids, and when I was in the academy, one of the instructors says, "Guys, you got to watch out. FBI is hard on families. I'm on my 5th marriage." I'm like, buddy, that's you. That's you. That's not the FBI. So I'm married 33 years now. What I did was there were many nights I got to be away. Hey, I started at 8 a.m. Oh, we're going to be going till 1 a.m. Or I've got to work a Saturday. I have to be away. And for me, what I did was, in turn, I was available. So I wasn't going out to the bar afterwards and hanging out and, unwinding. I wasn't golfing all weekend. So for me, I presume that my family can excuse those times if I'm present in the times that were available. And the crazy thing for us is, I didn't come from law enforcement. So when I came into the FBI early on working dope in Chicago, my wife would be saying, "Text me when you're safe." And I'd say, "Look, honey, I'm going to die from a car accident or a heart attack. I'm not going to get shot." And by the time I finish, I'm on SWAT. I'm going out all the time. And I would tell the wife, "Hey, we've got an op on Tuesday." And she'd go, "Okay, I'll put it on the calendar." And I'd say, "Well, I mean, the guy's kind of dangerous." She's like, "Yeah. So he told an informant that he won't be taken alive." And she's like, "I said I'd put it in the calendar. What do you want me to do?" And so, things have changed so much where, we're both trying to find out, what is the FBI? What's this life like? And then after 24 years, it's just, this is how it goes. Still want you to be safe, but now I feel good about the process.
Yeah, and I'll echo that. I mean, I've been married coming up on 30 years now, and it's it certainly can take its toll if you let it. I'm not one that, look, it was a great job. I had a blast, friggin' awesome job. But the bureau doesn't define me. I did the job for 20 years, and now that I'm out, I'm doing something completely different. I don't attend the monthly retired agents luncheon and relive war stories and all that. I mean, it was a great experience. I had a great, my family was there, and you try to be present when you're not called, but that phone's always with you. I was at my kid's soccer game once, I remember, and it was all hands on deck. There was a plane coming in from Jersey, and one of the passengers reported seeing what he or she thought was a missile coming at the plane from the ground. So we had to interview everybody on the plane to see if they saw anything. And they just wanted all the agents to show up at the Phoenix airport. So Like, sorry, I gotta go. I can't stay at the soccer game, and off you go. So it's this weird stuff at all hours that happens, and your family, if they understand that, it makes sense to them, and there's really no harm, no foul there.
Yeah.
But if that's not the dynamic that you have with your family, I can see where it would be a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it was on SWAT. I was on SWAT for 15 years, and so there were, occasional, hey, we've got a barricaded subject, we got to relieve somebody, we got to go, and there was an alert on my bureau phone that was a clanging sound, and that meant to be heard, and that was the sound that, hey, you got to respond because we got a call out. And like a week after I was out of the bureau, there's a freaking Tide commercial that has that same sound, and I have PTSD from that. So I'm, it's 8:30. I'm kind of, I'm partway through my bourbon, and we're just relaxing, and the Tide commercial goes off, and I shot up, and I couldn't sleep. It was like, oh wait, I don't have to do that anymore.
All right, some of the classic misconceptions. Let's go through that. So it's there's a shooting. Doesn't matter where it is, somewhere in America. The police are into this shooting, and then the FBI comes in, just like in Die Hard, and tells them that we're going to take over the operation.
Yeah.
And the first thing the FBI does is cut off the power, as Hans Gruber told us they do. The first thing they do for a building issue. Is any of this factual?
So my experience has been overwhelmingly the FBI works hand in hand with the locals, as we talked about before. They understand limitations. They have an idea of what we can provide, and we have their task force officers working with us, and that could be from other federal agencies, mainly local ones, and they're providing so much, and we're trying to provide back. So if we both come on a scene, something like you're talking about, high level guys are talking to each other and just coordinating, and sometimes there's butting heads. Always though, when it's like the low level of cop to agent or deputy to agent, we're always getting along, where we're just trying to get bad guys off the street. So if we're going to keep this state, I'm going to give you what I can. Maybe we're going to have the evidence response team assist on something. If it's going to go federal, he's giving me information. He's giving me access to an informant, and almost always their goal is our goal, and we're just trying to do it the best way.
What about the power?
Oh yeah, no, but we cut the power.
So you don't. The misconception is, and you guys will hear it so much through any TV, is I hear the collaboration, but when the FBI gets on the scene, we take over, guys. Step back, and then you do everything that we say because we're the FBI.
That's never been my experience. It's always like Eric says. You show up, you introduce yourself.
Yeah.
What do we got here? How can we help? And then the bosses will talk. The SAC will talk to the chief of police, or lieutenant will talk to the ASAC. Whatever, they'll figure out what the likely jurisdiction is, and more than likely the appropriate agency will take lead. But at some point that could change and go, look, there's no federal nexus here, or it's not terrorism. It was a lone wolf crazy person, whatever, and just shift the focus back to, all right, we're going to go with county charges on this, so give it to the local police. They'll prosecute it through the county prosecutor's office, and off you go.
And the SAC, probably more than anything else, is the special agent in charge is most concerned with having good relations with the law enforcement in his area. So he wants to, if he finds a supervisor who is mucking things up, he's going to be talking to him. And the supervisor the same way. And I know Brian's like, how many police chiefs did you talk to during your time? Like, you're doing the rounds saying,
yep,
we're here for you. We
all liaison.
We depend upon them.
Yep.
The FBI doesn't do their stuff on their own. We highly depend upon them.
Yeah. I've had to mend bridges that were burned by previous supervisors, or, so there's roughly 13,000 agents these days, 13,000 FBI agents worldwide. There's not a lot. When you look at like the city of Chicago or New York, I think they've got 36,000 police officers. So the FBI is very small. And if someone meets an FBI agent and that person's an asshole, then as far as that person that met you, everyone he talks to, FBI agents are assholes. So, it's like any organization. You've got your people that are problems, and they create problems. And I've had to go around and mend fences with bad agents who rub people the wrong way. Whether they're arrogant and funny story. Showing up on scene, new agents in a lot of field offices will have to work bank robberies. It's a great way to cut your teeth on criminal cases because they're fast cases, and you learn the process. So this guy walked in right out of the academy, first bank robbery. He's like, "Okay, FBI, we'll take it from here." And the local police, they were like, "Oh, go right ahead, asshole," and they just have at it, and so right there, it just rubbed people the wrong way, and he got put in his place pretty quick. But it does happen, and
Yeah.
but it doesn't happen like Die Hard. Where FBI will take it from here. That is not my experience.
Yeah.
Hans Gruber was a terrorist, so he did cross into federal jurisdiction,
He did.
I
He
suppose.
absolutely did.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you guys cut the power. I mean, you should have known that the bank vault was on a timed power at the end. I mean, it was just
I
basic
apologize.
mistakes.
I apologize.
I hope you did a verification afterwards. You looked at what the processes were followed, and that won't happen again. So, when does the FBI and the CIA overlap?
So I worked national security the last years of my career, and that's when now I'm interacting with the agency. So I'm working dope and gangs. There's no reason for me to meet any CIA officers, but they work hand in hand with us. They have to be holding our hand when they're working domestically. And as much as I could, I'm trying to support them because same government, but also now when things go overseas, I need them, and I need a guy who's working with me who can speak for me. So by the time these guys are stationed in the U.S., they're looking to approach certain businessmen, professors, maybe talking over our informants, what our informants might be able to offer them for intelligence overseas, their connections. And what I did was try as much as I could to butter them up and give them what they're looking for, so that now when my guy goes overseas, I'm getting their clearance and I'm getting some of their intel back where they can say, yeah, see if you can have him target this. Because then if I had an end user for what my informant could do or connect with, well, that's just going to be better for the U.S. government. So as much as I could, I'm working hand in hand with them too.
Let's talk about how you guys tell if a criminal is being truthful to you. We talked about polygraphs earlier on. Are there really signs that someone is lying to you? Is there things that you are trained to specifically look out for? What is the process that you go through when you're interrogating someone?
So, Brian, do you remember much of anything that you were taught at the academy for interrogations and interviews?
So the one thing that I always tell people is, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, is they use Bill Clinton as an example, that he would never answer the question that was asked him. He would answer a different question that he didn't have to lie about. So the example is, have you ever smoked marijuana? I said, I would never break the law in the United States, because he was overseas when he smoked his marijuana. So he would always answer a different question, if that makes sense. So
That's clever.
And so to that, so to your question, no, like no agent is looking for micro tells. No agent is putting any value in, which way they look or touching their face. It can be something, but we're using verbal analysis. So great example, when I'm interviewing someone and I say something to, what did you do on Tuesday when the child went missing? And the person says, usually on Tuesdays, I'm up by 8 a.m. And it doesn't matter what he says after that, because people want to tell the truth. They feel bad lying. unless you're a sociopath. And so they find ways to get around your question. And if you're sharp, and the way an interrogation usually goes, it's going to be two agents. If they're smart, one is the lead interrogator and the other kind of follows and then jots down like an idea that might be missed that can come around to. The worst is when two guys are fighting for control and I've got this great avenue and then my partner jumps in and has good questions, but it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. So we're working together like, hey, I'm going to be lead. You're taking notes. I'm going to turn to you when I can. And then you jump in with what you've got. But my partner then is watching what he's doing and maybe taking a note like, yeah, you asked this and he did not answer, or he answered and we have evidence that says that is not true. Let's get back to it.
Yeah. For me, one of the biggest things is it's all in the prep work. You can't go in and interrogate somebody without knowing the answers to your questions already. Like you already know most of them. Like I had an interrogation of a police officer who stole some money out of a bait vehicle that we had set up. And we had eyes on the vehicle the whole time. There were cameras in the vehicle. We had SWAT guys in ghillie suits watching the vehicle. And I can say with certainty, this cop was the only person that went into the vehicle and the money was missing at the end of it, right? And so when you start the interrogation, it was, okay, I said, one more thing I got to ask you about. You found this vehicle on such and such a date. And he goes, yeah, I did. Okay. I said, okay, and this is your police report, right? And he's like, yep, that's it. And it says here that you found this much money. He's like, yep, okay. Well, here's the problem. I put that vehicle there. And he's like, okay. And the problem is that there was more money in it than that. And he's like, okay. And then he tries to lie about this and that. And you have to block him off with facts. Well, what you're saying can't be true because of this. And the more you do that, lies are exhausting. People get physically tired lying. Lying takes a lot of work because you have to memorize and think about what you've already said. And what people will do as you interrogate, they get more and more tired and they start to lean over and they get more and more tired. And once they're sort of slouched, that body language tells you that they are getting ready to cave. And you close distance. There's techniques to sort of diffuse people and take that energy away from them. And there's all these different things you can do. And ultimately, for me, it usually came down to once you've boxed them in and the lie cannot live any longer, normally they'll just hang their head and then they'll just come up and say, yeah, I did it. And it's a wonderful feeling. The most powerful thing during an interrogation is silence, because people cannot stand to have silence when they want to fill it. They want to justify what they've done. They want to explain away the confusion. They just want to talk. So if you sit there and do nothing and just let that silence eat at them, it's gold. I mean, it's a wonderful tool. It's the most powerful tool, I think, during an interrogation, aside from being prepared with the facts.
Yeah.
Those two things together.
And I'll echo that. I was prepping beforehand. I knew lines of attack. I had everything down. I had all the facts. I had the papers with me, but I want to have them memorized to show this guy's professional. This guy's sharp. I interrogated a pastor who was part of a ring that were sex trafficking. Fantastic. And so as I talked to him, I'm talking to my partner. I said, hey, I'm going to be lead. I've got the lines. I'll tell you when to jump in. I asked him a question. When did you first meet the victim? And he answered every question this way. He's like, trying to compose himself. And my partner jumps in with, well, was it at the church? Was it somewhere else? He doesn't have to answer my question now. He's taken off of that. And I put my hand on his knee like, hey, remember, we're going to let him sit. And that it's like water. It just deteriorates him. And a good agent feels uncomfortable as well, but is going to let it work. I asked you a question. I'm not moving on to a different question. It's just this one. I'm not going to try to save you. If I asked, where were you on Tuesday? And you don't answer right away, I don't say, were you at work? I don't start feeding things. I'm going to let you, my question rules right now, you're going to get to it.
Wow. A pasture and sex trafficking. What a cliche you've got there, jeepers. Do you guys ever do the good cop, bad cop? The common misconception of banging on walls, throwing tables, getting up in their face, all of that stuff you see on TV?
No. So when I have, me and 15 of my buddies have torn down your door, pointed rifles at you, and put you in handcuffs, there's nothing much more I need to do to show you I'm in charge. And so I don't need to slam tables. I have shown that I'm in charge. And so I don't need to raise my voice. I don't need to scream. I don't need to put somebody down. We both know I'm in control here, and I'm just going to let that sit. And I would bring it down now to a more conversational level, because now if you're just talking to me, it seems comfortable. It seems normal. And now you're relaxed, and I want that. I want you to be calm so that you're fooled into thinking we're just talking. And I would often give people, I've been in this situation 1,000 times. This might be your first. And I'm the one who's going to save you. I'm helping you through this the worst time of your life is right now. And I'm your savior. I'm going to help you understand what's going on by telling you what our case is about. But if we want to have that conversation, you got to waive these rights, and you're going to talk to me as well. And now we're engaged in something fairly normal.
Yeah. I did have one guy I worked with. He came over to the FBI from the Secret Service, and we did a few interviews together. And he was interesting because he would sit behind the person we were talking to. And it's really intimidating, and I'd just sit in front and have the conversation. And this guy's name was Kevin. He'd be sitting behind the guy, and he'd just chime in with a question now and then. It was really a lot of fun.
Get close and start breathing on his neck.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, have you guys ever seen pure evil in a person? Have you ever seen a psychopath or something which you would define as pure evil?
A lot of times, so for me, the human trafficking cases, like we've talked about previously, Dave, those are the ones that haunt me. What a pimp will do to victimize. I've sat in rooms with murderers. One of the ones that sticks out for me for some reason, when we had a human trafficking case with an undercover sting where we set up an auction site, and people here in the United States were actually coming to Arizona to purchase sex slaves, just like the movie Taken. I mean, it's the same script almost. The idea was these girls have been kidnapped, and you can come buy one. And there were people here in the U.S. that wanted to do it, and they showed up. They came with various means of restraint. One guy came in an RV with syringes full of sedatives that he was going to use to get her home. One guy had created a dungeon in his basement with a big wooden cross and shackles to keep the girl shackled as a sex slave in his basement. And one person had bought an old medical bed, this 500 or 1,000-pound bed that he had with handcuffs. And these people all came, and we arrested them. And, we had set up this arrest, and that they're coming through this house that was all staged by us. And I would come around the corner as the lead, and I'd say, FBI, don't move. And these people are just face to face with me, and their world's caving in. But these people were literally there with $15,000, $20,000 in cash and means to subdue and hold a victim as a sex slave. And they were going to bring him home and violate these people. And to me, if you're okay with that, I mean, I don't know how much more evil you get. I mean, it's bad enough when you're in rooms with murderers and people that flippantly sell drugs to kids knowing they're going to overdose. And you see a lot of the bad in the world. But to come face to face with people who think that behavior was justified and they were going to get away with it, it's just really disturbing. And,
Well, I applaud you, because I had heard of that case. That's really interesting that you were part of that too. So that's one that got out that we knew of. And in Cleveland, where I was working, it wasn't our case. Our evidence response team went there, but Ariel Castro had 3 women that he kept hostage in his basement for years. And So I agree. There's things that people feel like they can keep hidden, and and it's hidden, it can be as dark as you want. And I'll add to that, though, that now when it's time to confront and we're doing the post-arrest interrogation, you have to find something to connect with that person, because I can't interview a monster. I have to interview a human being who has broken the law and perhaps in hideous ways, but there has to be something I can tie to, or else now I'm just a rage machine. So
Yeah.
I, despite what Brian's saying, I know, he agrees, like you just now have to set that aside. And the number of times we would talk about getting these pedophiles or guys who would show up because they thought our undercover was offering their 2-year-old to be abused. I tell that, and even cops would say, yeah, I don't know how you do that. I just put a bullet in their head. And I think, yeah, but I'm going to get them. I'm going to get them to confess. We're going to find out who else might be involved, and we'll do it professionally, and we'll let the system go. And you've just got to set that disgust aside.
Yep.
What about serial killers? Have you guys come across many serial killers?
So I was in my last 3 years in the Bureau, 3.5 years. I was at headquarters in the FBI's Critical Incident Response Group, CIRG. It's the division of the FBI that responds around the world to events that warrant an FBI presence or response. Included in CIRG is the Behavioral Analysis Unit, BAU. BAU has 4 sections within it, at least it did 3 years ago when I was there. They have one that deals with child sex crimes. They have one that deals with the psychology of online predators. They have a section, one of the BAU sections deals with terrorists. And I forget what the 4th one was. But those are the people that deal with the serial killer kind of stuff, that mentality, and they look at the psychological, all of it. It's the stuff that you actually see on TV was in BAU. So I got to visit that building a number of times. Never really interacted with the BAU folks because they're their own beast and they're off doing what they do. But so yeah, no, never a serial killer from me, but I know the people who did.
Yeah, we had one guy in our area who had killed a young woman and had all the signs of having done this before. But yeah, I mean, that was more of a case of opportunity that the Bureau assisted on, not so much of like, hey, we've got somebody in our area. It's somewhat rare now.
Yeah.
Guys,
I think the deterrent, there was, I think, a news report on it or something I was watching, that because there's so much DNA evidence that it's the number of serial killers has dropped way down. People aren't taking that chance anymore because they know they can get caught easier. At least that's the anecdotal. I don't have a study to say that, but I think the number of serial killers has gone down quite a bit because of the forensics that have gotten so good in the last couple of decades.
Now we just have mass shooters, so we've replaced it with something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
Nope.
But I want to thank you both for your time today. I honestly, I think there's about 40 questions I could keep going with, but I think we've run out of time. Thank you for your service. I think that America's definitely a lot safer for what the two of you have done over your time for the last 20 years. Fascinating talking to you. I've got so much out of this, and I think a lot of people have got a better understanding as to what the FBI is, what it does, and how they can get into it.
Yeah, if you want to drill down on any topics in any greater depth at a future podcast or show, happy to come back and weigh in if I can help.
I'm tempted to play a game of interrogation with you on a future podcast and see how you guys can interrogate me for something.
I'm going to get my buddy and we'll hook you up. Yeah. Send him in and put you on the polygraph. See how you like that.
I wanted to do one of these in person. I'll have to fly down there to New Zealand and get a polygrapher.
Always welcome. That would be wonderful.